There's a lot of talk these days about cancel culture. Some celebrate the social justice movement for exposing the bigotry of the past and attempting to move forward into a future of justice and equality for all. Opponents of cancel culture are suspicious that it's just another way of rationalizing censorship and a stripping away of our First Amendment rights. It seems like every week there's a new scandal involving the repercussions of so-called cancel culture. Just a few weeks ago, the world was up in arms over the firing of Gina Carano in Disney Plus's The Mandalorian after she made divisive posts on her social media. Now the internet can't stop talking about the supposed cancellation of 6 Dr. Seuss books that the publisher has signaled out for their insensitive depictions of people of color. Dr. Seuss is undeniably one of the most influential children's book writers in history. Theodor Seuss Geisel, aka Dr. Seuss, has sold more than 650 million kids' books in 17 dialects in 95 nations. Of the 650 million books in print, more than 450 million have been sold since his death. Dr. Seuss and his books are arguably a quintessential piece of the American cultural experience. It's pretty safe to say Seuss is the most well-known kids writer in America. According to data collected by Dr. Seuss Enterprises, it's estimated 1 in 4 kids receive a Seuss book as their first. While some have accused Dr. Seuss's books as being problematic in terms of how they address the issues of race, indigenous peoples, and other marginalized groups, there are also those who have applauded the author's works for promoting tolerance and even as being anti-racist. So which one is it? The Sneetches, for example, has been heralded as a groundbreaking denunciation of bigotry and extremism. The Southern Poverty Law Center even cites the Sneetches in their anti-racist curriculum list recommended for children in elementary school. Another popular Seuss book, Horton Hears a Who, has also been celebrated for advocating the equal treatment of all people. The book's famous mantra, "A person's a person, no matter how small," has been taken at face value as a statement of tolerance. Fast forward to today, and you'll find that Dr. Seuss Enterprises, the entertainment company that deals with the late author's estate, has chosen to voluntarily cease distributing 6 Dr. Seuss books that highlight what some see as bigoted and inhumane symbolism. They include And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street, If I Ran the Zoo, McGilligut's Pool, On Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Egg Super, and The Cat's Quizzer. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And stick around, we're going to dive into what's going on with Dr. Seuss's cancellation. The Seuss estate is dedicated to diversity. Dr. Seuss Enterprises clarified in a statement that its main goal is to support all kids and families with messages of hope, inspiration, inclusion, and friendship. After working with a panel of specialists, which included teachers and sociologists, it chose to stop authorizing and distributing those specific titles. These 6 books are the ones that have received the most attention for their archaic depictions of people of color and foreigners. That being said, these books are now finding a second life on the resale market, with a portion of these titles recorded as restricted. So even though these books aren't that rare, they're still being sold for a ton of money on auction sites like eBay. One copy of And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street just sold for $1,500. So what's the big deal anyway? The problematic depictions in question include a Japanese character referred to as a Japanese in The Cat's Quizzer, drawn with a bright yellow face and standing on what appears to be Mount Fuji. In On the Off Chance That I Ran a Zoo, a white man says he will put a man wearing a turban in plain view in his zoo. The literacy campaign Read Across America Day has also taken steps to distance itself from Dr. Seuss, even though his books and his birthday were instrumental in its creation. Social media has been up in arms for days following this latest chapter in the so-called culture wars. There are those on Twitter who refuse to accept that the beloved author harbored any kind of prejudicial views. Others have expressed a more balanced approach, acknowledging that he came from a different era where such depictions were more socially acceptable. There's no denying the fact that the times are changing. That's one of the few things we can expect. Change is inevitable. Change can be good, but not everyone will be satisfied with the changes on the horizon. There are always going to be outspoken critics and backwards bigots who want things to stay the same. Some are distancing themselves from his books. Unlike previous presidents Donald Trump and Barack Obama, President Biden didn't make reference to Dr. Seuss in his official announcement for Read Across America Day. In his statement, Biden emphasized that for endless Americans, the way to proficiency in reading starts with story time in their school classroom. Recently, reports came out that Loudoun County Public Schools in Virginia had restricted Dr. Seuss books. Yet the school explained that Dr. Seuss books are still accessible in its libraries and classes. The school had just chosen to separate Read Across America Day from Dr. Seuss's birthday because what they referred to as the solid racial suggestion in a portion of the books he composed and showed. Furthermore, the National Education Association started encouraging instructors to put more focus on variety during Read Across America and to move away from making the day inseparable from Dr. Seuss. The president of the organization expressed in 2018 their desire that all students see themselves represented in popular culture. What does the future hold? It's pretty unclear whether pulling these 6 Dr. Seuss books will do anything in regards to cleaning up the author's image, but it really doesn't matter. Seuss Enterprises is raking in the cash. The media company managed to bring in $33 million in profit last year for its numerous on-screen offerings, partnerships, and consistent book sales. Dr. Seuss is the second highest compensated dead celebrity, just behind Michael Jackson. Nixing a few relatively obscure books certainly isn't going to break the bank. Dr. Seuss regretted his earlier depictions of race. It's important to remember that when he first began to write for children in 1937, many representations of people of color in the media were depicted through racial stereotypes. In his first book, And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street, to represent an Asian character, Seuss depicted him in traditional clothing with a pair of chopsticks to depict his ethnicity. He originally referred to this character as a Chinaman and showed his skin color as yellow. In a later reprint, he removed the color and changed the text to a Chinese man. Ted Owens, Seuss's nephew, remembers the day his uncle decided to make that change. It was the first time he had changed one of his books since he started writing in 1937. By contrast, The Sneetches, which is celebrated for its message of inclusiveness, was written in 1961, just as the civil rights movement was picking up momentum. A call for restorative justice. According to Danielle Slaughter of Momademics, an educational network dedicated to racial equality, justice is not always about canceling someone and their body of work. Sometimes it looks like providing room for restorative justice to take place. Since Dr. Seuss used the remainder of his career to focus on writing books full of important lessons, his works should be seen as an example of restorative justice. Some have pointed out that 3 of his later works, Horton Hears a Who, The Lorax, and The Sneetches, effectively educate about the significance of consideration and acknowledgement of others and yourself. In his book Becoming Dr. Seuss, Theodor Geisel and the Making of an American Imagination, biographer Brian J. Jones acknowledged Dr. Seuss drew some bigoted generalizations in his initial work, but as time went on, Seuss continued to develop as a person, and with that, so did his views. By the end of the 50s, he had composed Horton Hears a Who, which is devoted to a Japanese companion and seen by researchers as a statement of regret for the earlier cartoons. He later composed Yertle the Turtle, an anti-fascist condemnation of Hitler, and then wrote a magazine story that turned into the anti-discrimination book The Sneetches. It would be intellectually dishonest to ignore the fact he had clearly grown substantially in the 3 decades since he started writing. What do you think about this whole Dr. Seuss controversy? Are you offended that these 6 books are being canceled, or do you see it as progress? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Trender if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.